السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. الحمد لله رب العالمين، أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له، وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله صلى الله عليه وعلى آله وصحبه والتابعين وتابعيهم بإحسان إلى يوم الدين. أما بعد, today is the 29th of the month of Shawwal 1441, and this matches the 21st of June, Sunday, the 21st of June, 2020. And tomorrow, inshallah, it's either going to be the 30th of the month of Shawwal, Monday, or it is going to be the first of the month of Dhul Qa'dah. And this is, of course, it depends on moon sighting. The information that is available to us on moon sighting is that it is possible to sight the new moon in the West, in America and western part of the world. In America, I believe they said with the telescope, but then there is a tiny area where to the west of America where it can be seen by the naked eye if the conditions are okay. But in the east, it is possible. It is not possible to sight the new moon, and therefore, according to if every area is going to be having its own sighting, then in the east tomorrow is the 30th. But for us here in the west, tomorrow is the first. That is, if it is actually sighted by people in the West, and we'll get to know that probably later on in the evening. And Allah knows best how this is going to affect the Eid of Dhul Hijjah, because if tomorrow is the 30th in the East and the first for us, then there is going to be a one-day difference, and we don't know about the end of the month and the beginning of the new month, Dhul Hijjah. Just to let you know about what is going on so that you are informed, inshallah ta'ala. Every Sunday we do Umdat Al-Ahkam, and today it is the hadith number 37, and this is upon the authority of Ammar ibn Yasir radiyallahu anhuma. Ammar ibn Yasir, the son of Yasir, may Allah be pleased with them both. These are from the early Muslims, and Yasir and his wife, they were killed in Mecca, radiyallahu anhuma. Ammar lived to migrate to twice to Al-Habasha, and then he migrated to Al-Madinah, radiyallahu anhu. And Ammar ibn Yasir is from the well-known Sahaba. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said about him that he is filled with iman to the bone. ملئ إيمانا إلى مشاشه رضي الله عنه وأرضاه في الجنة. And we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to also fill our hearts with iman and to give us the yaqeen. اللهم ارزقنا اليقين. اللهم إنا نسألك اليقين والعفو والعافية والمعافاة في الدنيا والآخرة. He said, بعثني رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم في حاجة فأجنبت. Rasulullah صلى الله عليه وسلم sent me for a need. He sent him for a mission. It was Allah knows best. He traveled and it was in an expedition. فأجنبت. So I had the state of major impurity due to having looks like a wet dream. فلم أجد الماء. I did not find the water, so no water to bathe. فتمرغت في الصعيد كما تمرغ الدابة. So he rolled into the dust on the floor. And they use the word wallow in, welter in. And it means to put yourself on the floor and roll in the dust. That's what he has done. He said he did that. He rolled in كما تمرغ الدابة, exactly like the beast would do, like the animal. You know how, if you've seen, I'm sure, a cat playing, how it rolls in the dust, or a dog even, right? He said that's what he did. He knew about the tayammum, but he didn't know what to do exactly when you have a janaba. Most of them know what to do when it is the minor impurity, wudu, as a replacement of wudu, and how you do the tayammum when you are يعني having the major impurity, the janaba. He said ثم أتيت النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم. This is what he has done. He rolled into the floor, turned himself into or onto the ground. That's what he did. And he prayed. ثم أتيت النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم فذكرت له ذلك. Then I came to the Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم, so I mentioned that to him. فقال, so he said, إنما كان يكفيك أن تقول بيديك هكذا. It surely only was sufficient for you to say, يعني to do, with your hands like this, with your two hands, يديك, with your two hands like this. ثم ضرب بيديه الأرض ضربة واحدة. يعني رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم now is describing, is demonstrating how to do the tayammum. Then he hit with his two hands on the ground, on the floor, al-arda, one hit, one touch, right? ثم مسح الشمال على اليمين. Then he wiped the left over the right. وظاهر كفيه ووجهه. And the outward, the top part that is, of his hands and his face. This is in Bukhari, Hadith 347, and it is in Muslim, Hadith 368. غريب الحديث. The words that need explanation in the Hadith. فتمرغت في الصعيد. فتمرغت في الصعيد. He said تقلب في الأرض حتى عم بدنه بالتراب. تمرغت في الصعيد. So I rolled in myself, or I rolled myself in the Sa'id. The word Sa'id, we mentioned that it is the surface of the earth. So he explains this into تقلب. تقلب means to turn into. في الأرض. He turned himself, he turned his body, all his body, he turned himself into or onto the ground. حتى عم بدنه, up until he generally reached out or covered all of his body with dust. The second is the second word or set of words, أن تقول بيديك. Literally, that you say with your two hands. You say with your two hands. Right? Here he says, يراد بالقول الفعل. What is meant by saying is to actually perform, to do the action. يعني we use that in English. I don't know if it is slang or I'm sorry, I didn't check it. I should have. When you go, he said like this, he said like that, right? We say that in English, right? So the word is say, but it means he did like this. So he said with his two hands like this, meaning he did with his two hands like that. Right? وهو كثير في لسان الشرع ولغة العرب. He said, and this is a lot in the tongue, يعني the language of the legislation and the language of the Arab. يعني the language of the Arabs. يعني you mean you say and you mean he did, right? Just like I mentioned to you. He said like this, which means he did it. He did the action like that. المعنى الإجمالي, the general meaning. بعث النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم عمار بن ياسر. The Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم sent عمار بن ياسر في سفر, in a travel, in a journey, لبعض حاجاته, for some of his needs. He sent him for to fulfill something, for a mission. فأصابته جنابة, a state of sexual defilement, janaba, major impurity, happened to him. فأصابته, it has befallen him. فلم يجد الماء ليغتسل منه. He did not find the water to bathe from it. وكان لا يعلم حكم التيمم للجنابة. And he used not to know the ruling of dry purification for the state of the major impurity, the ritual impurity of the janaba. He had a wet dream, as we mentioned. وإنما يعلم حكمه للحدث الأصغر. He only knew the ruling for its ruling for the tayammum, that is the dry purification. He only knew its ruling for the minor impurity. يعني when you need to make just wudu, you know, he knew the ruling for the tayammum, dry purification, when it is needed because you relieved yourself and you want to use it as a replacement for wudu. He did not know how to do the tayammum as a replacement for janaba, يعني to purify oneself with water from the janaba, the major impurity. فلا بد أن يكون التيمم من الجنابة فلا بد أن يكون التيمم من الجنابة. So it must be, according to him, of course, that performing dry purification tayammum from janaba, major impurity, it must be بتعميم البدن بالصعيد, by generally covering all of the body parts, having all of the body parts, right, have dust on it, making the dust reach all of the body parts. This is what he thought. How? Why? قياسا على الماء, by analogy to water. You know, you have the water reach all parts of your body. So he thought, you know what? I figure I'm going to have the dust cover all my body, right? Reach to all parts of the body. فتقلب في الصعيد. So he turned himself into the surface of the ground. حتى عمه التراب, up until dust covered him all. And وصلى, and then he prayed. فلما جاء إلى النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم, so when he came to the Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم, وكان في نفسه مما عمله شيء. He came to the Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم, and it was within himself, كان في نفسه مما عمله, because due to what he has done, there was within himself what? There was something. يعني there was something he was he was not sure about what he has done. He felt somehow some sort of suspicion. So لأنه عن اجتهاد منه, that is why, that is because it was what he did, this rolling himself into the ground, was based upon ijtihad, exercising his judgment, putting the effort to reach a conclusion as to what to do. It was his own, because he didn't know anything, so he has to use what the available knowledge to him, and his judgment led him to do just that, right? ذكر له ذلك, so he mentioned that to the Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم, ليرى هل هو على صواب أم لا, so that he will see whether he was right, he is upon right, يعني right position, correct, or not. فقال النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم, so the Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم said, يكفيك عن تعميم بدنك كله بالتراب, it will suffice you from generally covering all of your body making the dust reach all of your body with dust, it will suffice you that from doing that, that is, that you hit with your two hands on the ground, one hit, one touch. ثم تمسح شمالك على يمينك. Then you wipe your left over your right. وظاهر كفيك ووجهك. And the outward part of your hands, that is the top part. So you wipe with the bottom, the palm, you wipe with it over the top of the hand. And the same with that one, right? So like this. The left, you wipe with the right, over the right, and the left, the right over the left, like that, right? اختلاف العلماء, the difference between the scholars. اختلف العلماء, the scholars differed. هل يجزئ في التيمم ضربة واحدة? Is it sufficient for tayammum, in tayammum, one hit, one touch to the ground, for both للوجه والكفين, for the face and the two palms, or the two hands, أو لابد من ضربتين, or is it a must to have two times that you hit the ground, that you touch the ground? وهل لابد من المسح على اليدين إلى المرفقين? And is it a must to wipe over the hands up to the elbows? Right? Like this. Right? And like this. Or only to the wrist. فذهب بعضهم ومنهم الشافعي. Some of them opined, some of them they are of the position, and amongst them is Imam al-Shafi'i, إلى أنه رحمه الله إلى أنه لابد من ضربتين. They took the position that you must have two times you hit the ground, two times you touch the ground. واحدة للوجه وأخرى لليدين إلى المرفقين. One for the face and the other one for the two hands up to the two elbows. محتجين بأحاديث, using as a proof أحاديث, statements of the Prophet ﷺ, or أحاديث, traditions of the Prophet ﷺ. منها ما رواه الدارقطني. منه, amongst these أحاديث, what is narrated by Imam Darqutni. عن ابن عمر, from ابن عمر, عبد الله ابن عمر ابن الخطاب رضي الله عنهما. التيمم ضربتان. This narration says التيمم ضربتان. تيمم, dry purification, is two ضربة. ضربة is one ضربة, hit. ضربتان, two hits. So twice you hit the ground, ضربتان. Then it says ضربة للوجه, one hit for the face and another hit for the two hands up to the two elbows. Right? So according to the footnote here, it is narrated in Al-Tabarani in his book Al-Kabir, and Al-Darqutni and Al-Bayhaqi in his Sunan. Right? وذهب الجمهور ومنهم الإمام أحمد. The majority of the scholars are of the position, and amongst those jumhur, the majority, amongst them is Imam Ahmad and Al-Awza'i and Ishaq and Ahlul Hadith, the people of Hadith, those scholars that you heard, and the people of Hadith in general. What does it mean, people of Hadith? People who rely on Hadith. They prefer Hadith, or they give priority to Hadith over the other positions. And this is a position by all the scholars, actually. All of the scholars, if they find a hadith, they give it priority. But here it refers to the people specialized extensively and comprehensively in hadith. Otherwise, you see Imam al-Shafi'i here, for instance, and the other scholars that took his position, they're relying on this hadith. This hadith narrated by Ibn Umar, right? So all the scholars, there is no scholar who will find a hadith and the hadith proves this or that, and then he goes, oh, let's just put this hadith aside. Let's go with this other weak hadith, or let's go with opinion instead of that hadith. No scholars, do that. It does happen in the end, but then they have an interpretation as to why they did it. But do you think any Muslim, just from the laymen, from the general folks, who knows that Rasulullah ﷺ said or did this, and then he says, well, let's put this on the side and let's do our business? No Muslim says this. Even the many laymen that you see around following this sheikh or this madhab or that madhab, they say that that sheikh that we're following, that madhab that we're following, knows more about the sunnah than us. If you follow them, then you are more of a follower to Rasulullah ﷺ. That's what they do, right? And of course, there are those amongst them who have asabiyya, who have fanaticism. Meaning, even if they learn, even if they know that based on the narrations that are available, these narrations are stronger. This position is stronger than the other one, right? Some of them are from the general layman, some of them are from the scholars. They get that information. Yet they still say what? No, we'll still follow what we learned, what we know, our madhab, our people, our fathers, our mothers, what they taught, we're going to follow. Those now, they're not people of hadith. The people of hadith are the ones who put in the time and effort to not only to study hadith and then to sift the statements and come up with the conclusion. Those are people of hadith, Ahlul Hadith, right? And you have from the general folks, the laymen, who go with Ahlul Hadith because they believe that those people, they ought to be followed the most, right? They ought to be followed the most. But then, regardless how much everyone claims to be verifying positions, this is the most verified position. This is the strongest position of them all. There is no one who is immune from error. And Rasulullah sallallahu he is the one who is free from error, alayhi salatu wassalam. After him, the ummah, the Muslim ummah, when they unanimously agree on something, that cannot be wrong. But then aside from that, everyone can be right or wrong. Regardless of how much you think you are verifying your position and you followed the most verified position, you followed the leading authority on the subject, you followed the leading authority on the hadith or fiqh or whatever, still give and take. As Imam Malik rahimahullah said, there is no one amongst us except that you take and you leave from his position. Could be right or wrong, except for the one who is in that grave. And he pointed to the grave of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. There is no one except that can refute others or can be refuted by others, except for Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. No one can reject his position and his statement, alayhi salatu wassalam. So anyhow, the majority amongst them, Imam Ahmad, Awza'i, Ishaq, and the people of Hadith, they are of the position that tayammum, dry purification, is just one hit to the ground. Just one time you hit the ground. وأنه لا يمسح إلا الوجه والكفان, and that you do not wipe except for the face and the two hands. The two hands, that's up to the wrist, not to the elbows, up to the wrists. مستدلين بأحاديث صحيحة using as a proof authentic أحاديث. منها حديث عمار هذا. Amongst those أحاديث is this hadith from Ammar ibn Yasir رضي الله عنه. This is in Bukhari and Muslim. متفق عليه, agreed upon. يعني the highest level of authenticity. قال ابن حجر, الحافظ ابن حجر, he said, وكان عمار يفتي به بعد زمن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم. Ammar used to give religious verdicts, as a religious ruling based on this narration after the time of the Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم. So he remained later on, people who ask him, this is how he answers them. The same as Rasulullah صلى الله عليه وسلم told him to do. والراوي للحديث أعرف بمراده. And the narrator of the hadith, he is most knowledgeable of what is meant by it. Unlike the one who's narrating from the narrator, the one who's narrating the issue himself, he knows more about it than the one who's narrating from him. So he's وأجابوا عن أحاديث الضربتين والمرفقين بما فيهما من المقال المشهور. And they replied about the ahadith of the two hits and the two elbows, wiping the two elbows. They replied, what did they reply? They replied with whatever is involved within them, these narrations, من المقال المشهور, of the famous, of the well-known maqal statement. Yani when you say, well, this there is some statements about that. Yani there is some statements about it, yani refuting it and negating it, right? Weakening it, giving it a lower status, right? There is something to be said about it. When you say like that, oh, that position, there is something to be said about it. Yani it's not as you think it is. So those ahadith, those narrations of the two hits to the ground, over the ground, and wiping up to the elbows, there's something to be said negatively about them, yani that they're not that dependable narrations. ولا نجعل تلك الأحاديث في صف الأحاديث الصحاح الواضحة. And we do not make those ahadith in the same line. Saf is a line. In the same line as the ahadith, statements of the Prophet ﷺ, that are sihah, that are authentic, the plural of sahih, sahihah, al-wadihah, right? That are crystal clear, like this hadith. So you don't go with this that is in Bukhari and Muslim. And you go with narrations that are in At-Tabarani, Darqutni, and Bayhaqi, and the scholars said things about them. When you have something agreed upon, Bukhari and Muslim, that is the top. And likewise, other things like this, like the hadith of raising the hands when you go down to ruku' and when you stand up from ruku'. Bukhari, Muslim, so many narrations that are authentic. You leave all of that and you go with a narration that is attributed to a companion, the action of a companion himself, and other narrations that are not, right? يعني you cannot يعني proofs and evidences, they are not on the same level. So if you have a proof that is top notch, you don't bring a proof that is very low and very weak, doesn't hold up, doesn't stand up. You use it to push back the proof that is of the highest level and quality. That is not fair, right? And it is attributed to Imam Malik long time ago that he said that أقل شيء يعني هو الإنصاف. The least you will find is insaf, fairness and justice, doing justice and fairness. Anyways, قال ابن عبد البر, الإمام ابن عبد البر, he said, أكثر الآثار المرفوعة عن عمار ضربة واحدة. Most of the reports that are raised up, يعني to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, being from the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. From Ammar, most of them are one hit to the ground. وما روي من ضربتين فكلها مضطربة. And whatever is narrated of two hits to the ground, all of them, so all of them, then all of them, he said, فكلها, then all of them are مضطربة. They are shaky. This is a specific term, اضطراب, in the terminology of hadith. And we did that, if you remember, al-Bayquniyah. And inshallah, we try to do again so that we remember those terms, inshallah ta'ala. But then they are kind of shaky. They are meaning they are narrated from different routes in different ways, and we cannot ascertain which way is stronger than the other. So therefore, we drop all. وقال ابن دقيق العيد, الإمام ابن دقيق العيد, he said, ورد في حديث التيمم ضربتان, ضربة للوجه وضربة لليدين. It has come, it was narrated in the hadith of tayammum, dry purification. It has come two hits to the ground, one for the face and one hit for the face, one hit for the two hands. Except إلا أنه لا يقاوم هذا الحديث في الصحة. Except that it does not stand up to this hadith in terms of authenticity. ولا يعارض مثله بمثله. You should not oppose the likeness of this, يعني weak narration. You should not use it to contradict, to oppose the likeness of this in terms of its authenticity. Once again, the same meaning there. وقال الخطابي, Imam al-Khattabi, he said, ذهب جماعة من أهل العلم, a group of scholars, they are of the position, إلى أن التيمم ضربة واحدة للوجه والكفين. That tayammum is one hit for both the face and the two hands. وهذا المذهب أصح في الرواية. And this position, this school of thought that took this position, right, is more authentic in terms of narration, right? So, and that is with the choice of Ahlul Hadith. And Imam Ahmad alayhi rahmatullah, he says, دين النبي محمد أخبار. The religion of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, it is actually reports. نعم المطية للفتى الآثار. What a great vehicle, what an amazing vehicle for the young man, the seeker of knowledge, that is fata, youth. Al-atharu, the reports. Yani, that's the religion of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. It's based upon narrations, right? And what a great tool that is, those narrations are. لا ترغبن عن الحديث وآله. Do not turn away from hadith and its people. فالرأي ليل والحديث نهار. For surely opinion, mere opinion, is just night time, darkness of the night. While hadith is naharu, is the daylight. ولربما جهل الفتى أثر الهدى والشمس بازغة لها أنوار. And maybe the young man, the youth, he will mistake or he will be ignorant. He will not know the guidance, the traces of guidance, or the trace, the mark of guidance, yani, to follow. The youth, he might not know it. وَالشَّمْسُ بَازِغَةٌ لَهَا أَنْوَارُ. While the sun is already up and out, and it has a lot of light, right? Yani you could be jailed, you could be restricted to the darkness of opinion and the ignorance of just mere opinion. You don't know the reports, you don't know what Rasulullah ﷺ said, while he alayhi salatu wasalam, he made statements about it. And those statements, they are like the sun, and the sun has all its sun rays يعني shining to the people. So this is one of the examples here. ما يؤخذ من الحديث. What do we take from this hadith? Number one, التيمم للغسل من الجنابة. That is okay يعني to make to perform dry purification تيمم due to janaba, the state of sexual defilement, the state when you have intercourse or had a wet dream, semen came out with enjoyment, and you don't have water, then you can use the tayammum. Also, we benefit that إنه لابد من طلب الماء قبل التيمم. You have to seek the water before you resort to dry purification. As he said here, Ammar couldn't find water, so he did what he did. Third, and there are details to this. There are details to this. And subhanallah, يعني, I was reading about the subject today. يعني الإسلام, الفقه الإسلامي, the Islamic jurisprudence is an ocean. يعني they write so many things just about this subject. What exactly to do, and when are you considered not finding water, right? And how long, and how much time, and how much effort do you need to spend in order for you to be considered you couldn't find water, right? Because some people yani, they might yani, take things really easy, relaxed, overly relaxed, lazy, negligent. And some people might be too rigid in this, too harsh, too tough. They are about to die and no, don't use the water. Right? So this is the case. Even in this issue, seeking the water, what are the details of that? How much effort and time you need to spend in order to details. And you see how our scholars, they have done a lot of effort. Even those scholars who said 2 hits, darbatan, and they said up to the elbow. Don't think they just talk. They don't just talk. Allah, they are very smart. And they have so many details. And they're on top of that, their intention is sincerely for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Yes, there could have come later on some people who are fanatic, some people who are ignorant, or not ignorant, knowledgeable, but they choose blind following and blind yani, imitation. And we found our forefathers upon something, and you might find those smart people, but they're not gifted with the gift of following the truth. But the early scholars who started in the beginning talking about this, they only wanted Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the face of Allah and the Yawm al-Akhir, the last day. They weren't just talking about their own opinion. They wanted to safeguard. They wanted to safeguard the religion and give the right position. Third of the things we benefit is صفة التيمم, the description of how to perform the dry purification, وهو ضرب الأرض مرة واحدة, and that is to hit the ground one time, ثم مسح الوجه واليدين, then you wipe the face and the 2 hands. It says here in the book, if you are using the same book that we put the link to it in the in our website, and maybe I should try putting the link here so those who are interested in following the Arabic, they will find it. It says here مسح الوجه واليدين إلى المرفقين, up to the 2 elbows. How could it be up to the 2 elbows when the Sheikh already discussed the matter and he يعني chose otherwise? He chose that it is up to the wrists and that the hadith mentioning the elbows is not authentic, right? So then you put يعني if you made a printout of that book, just put a circle on this إلى المرفقين. Now I found in another copy of the same book in the footnote something that is attributed to the Sheikh, to the author, and it says that it doesn't have in Hadith Ammar, which we benefited from it, those rulings, It doesn't have wiping the two hands up to the two elbows, but rather the explicit, the direct صريحه, its direct explicit recommendation is to restrict oneself to the الكفين, to the two hands, to the wrists, right? وهو مذهب الجمهور, the two palms, and this is the position of the جمهور, the majority, and it says there in that copy الشارح, يعني that the explainer is the one who said that. So I don't know, يعني we are using the book, and sometimes this is the benefit of us studying books together, so that sometimes there are printing mistakes that we need to find out, and just another printing mistake will show, right, soon, right? So that's why the scholars, they say, don't just depend on the books, don't just depend on the books, don't just depend on the books, because mistakes happen, and then you are you are going to follow this mistake, right? That's the benefit of us learning this from our scholars, and us using different books, different copies, right? So that we will get the butter, we get the conclusion, and we also fix and correct whatever we see of the printing mistakes. Yet sometimes, as some people, they attack or they look down upon reading the books and getting the books, and they say, oh, learn from the scholars, don't read that. That's a big mistake. That's a big mistake. Even the scholars, when you learn from them, the scholars make mistakes too. Even the statement, even the statement, right? They want to say this, they say that, and we have seen that happening. We have seen that happening, right? So we learn from the scholars, and if there are mistakes, alhamdulillah, we remind them about the mistake, a flip of a tongue, or a mistake that happened. Likewise, we read the books, and we do not depend on that. We correct whatever we find of the mistakes and ask the scholars, and try to always, the best way of learning is to learn under the hands of a scholar. But then if we don't have a scholar, then we just resort to whatever we can. If someone is not a scholar, we try to benefit from him. If we don't have even that, we just read from the books, and we be cautious all the time, trying to correct ourselves. So Allah knows best, whether this is part of the book, or the Sheikh put this and then he made a footnote under. I'm not sure, but anyways, we corrected it. So you wipe the face, one hit to the ground, you wipe the face and the two hands, right? And you generally cover all of them with wiping the face and the two hands. قال ابن رشد said إطلاق اسم اليد على الكف أظهر من إطلاقه على الكف والساعد. That he said that the word yad, which literally means hand, right? Using the name hand, yad, right, generally is indicating the kaf, which is the palm. أظهر is more apparent than it being used, the word yad, than it being used for al-kaf was-sa'id, for the palm and the arm, right? So yad, when it's used, usually it means this part, not up to here. Although linguistically it could mean up to here, it could mean up to here too, up to the up to the armpits, right? That's all called hand. It's okay. Yad. In Arabic, of course, yad. That's why I say literally in English, yad, hand, right? So this is the case. So using the word yad is mostly for this part, more than it being used for up to the elbow or the sa'id, which is this part here, the arm. Number 4, we benefit from the hadith. 8:54. I have to go quickly inshallah so we can finish. ذكر الصنعاني أن العطف في روايات هذا الحديث قد جاء بالواو وتفيد العطف المطلق، وجاء بالفاء وثم وتفيدان الترتيب، والترتيب زيادة. He said that الصنعاني mentioned عليه رحمة الله that العطف is the when you have a conjunction. So you say Muhammad and Ali, right? This and is a conjunction. So you use the word wa or the letter wa for conjunction between two things, right? So this has come in the narrations of the hadith. It has come with waw sometimes, the letter waw, and this indicates general conjunction, general accompaniment, right? وجاء بالفاء, and it has come with the letter fa, and it has come with the letter thumma, which means then in English. وتفيدان الترتيب. And both of these two, the fa and the thumma, they both mean order. They both mean indicate order. والترتيب زيادة. This order is an extra meaning. والزيادة من العدل مقبولة. There is another mistake here. والزيادة من العدم, with a meme. If you have the book and you're using the book, fix it to a lam. Adam meme, non-existence. So the meaning here now, if we translate like that, and the increase from a non-existence or a non-existent thing is acceptable, which makes no sense. But the increase, the addition from a trustworthy person is acceptable. So some narrations say you wipe the face and hand. Face and hand here, it could be the hand first, it could be the face first. But some narrations say fa or thumma, which means the face, then the hands. The face, then after that, I should make it more clear. Then after that, the hands. So this here indicates order, that you must do the face first, then after that you do the hands. And this additional meaning, which you have to do it, meaning that you have to do these things, this wiping has to be done in order. It has come as an additional narration from a trustworthy adl, just person, just person, right? Yani an acceptable narrator. And the narration of an acceptable narrator, the narration of an acceptable narrator should be accepted. So if an acceptable narrator gave us an additional meaning, we must accept that additional meaning. And in this case here, it's the order that you have to do the face first, then the hands. فيحمل مجموع ما في الصحيحين على الترتيب. So we should understand the totality of those narrations. You have a number of narrations, so we should understand them in light of this. We should understand them, the narrations that are in Sahihain, Bukhari and Muslim. We should understand them to mean the order, because the one who said face and hands, this does not talk about the order, and the other ones, they mean the order. Then means the order. So we should understand the face and hands in light of the face, then the hands. That's what he is saying here. So we should understand them all in light of following the order. ولم يرد عن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم تقديم اليدين على الوجه لا قولا ولا فعلا. And there hasn't come from the Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم giving priority to first to the two hands first over the face. There isn't a narration like that, not a statement and not an action, not a statement and not an action. And there are still scholars who say no, since those narrations they came sometimes in order, sometimes in not following the order. So you can do both. And some of them even went ahead and they said, no, following the order, it came only in the ghusl from, tayammum, dry purification from janaba, state of major impurity, the sexual defilement. And the narrations that talk about uh, hands and face, they came about the wudu. So then, if the tayammum, dry purification, is a replacement for wudu, then you don't have to follow the order. But if the tayammum, the dry purification, is from state of sexual defilement, then you have to follow the order of the face first and then the hands. And in the Quran, actually, it mentions face and the hands, right? Yani face first. Mention the face first, but then it uses the letter waw there. بوجوهكم وأيديكم, right? So it doesn't say then, right? So this is the case. So some scholars, they went with the order. Some scholars, they said no, the order doesn't matter. As long as you wiped your face and hands, that's it. It doesn't matter which one you started with first. The other ones, they say no, that has to be in the order. طيب. Number 5, benefit number 5, إن التيمم للحدث الأكبر كالتيمم للحدث الأصغر في الصفة والأحكام. That dry purification because of the major impurity is like the tayammum, same like the dry purification for the minor impurity in terms of description and in terms of rulings. Of course, this is the choice of the Sheikh. Otherwise, Sheikh Abdullah bin Abdul Rahman al-Bassam. Otherwise, we told you that there are differences within the scholars. Number 6, الاجتهاد في مسائل العبادات. That you exercise your judgment. You try to do your best effort in terms of the issues of acts of worship. So Ammar here, radiallahu anhu, he didn't know what to do. So he did the best he could understand that he should do, right? Then he went on and he inquired. So you do something, then you ask from someone who's knowledgeable to teach you and guide you to the best, even though you did what you could. Number 7, إن المجتهد إذا أداه اجتهاده إلى غير الصواب وفعل العبادة ثم تبين له الصواب بعد ذلك فإنه لا يعيد تلك العبادة. He said that the mujtahid, the one who put in all his effort, he did all he can do. If his judgment that he exercised, that he tried to do his best, if his judgment in the end led him to other than what is correct, غير الصواب, other than correctness, and he did the act of worship, وفعل العبادة, he did perform it, like Ammar, he did his best and he performed the salah. ثم تبين له الصواب بعد ذلك, then later on it became clear to him what is correct, الصواب. Correct, the correct position became clear to him afterwards, بعد ذلك فإنه لا يعيد تلك العبادة. Then he does not repeat, he does not have to redo that act of worship. He does not have to redo it again. Why? Because he did it and it was okay. He did it based on his best judgment, so he doesn't have to repeat it. And there are also details to this, but this is the general meaning here. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك. جزاكم الله خيرا والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. We see you tomorrow إن شاء الله.